Mark Rogers TV, Week 8 of our college football predictions. Let's get right to it, starting in the SEC with number 1 Alabama hosting Arkansas. The Hogs, with possibly the worst passing attack in the SEC, just got thumped by South Carolina at home 52-7. Alabama is starting to get onto a roll. They knocked out Kentucky last week 48-7. We like the Tide. We like the Tide big. They cover 28.5 at home. Oregon and Washington State, number 2 Ducks. They are thumping teams by the week, covering these kind of spreads on a regular basis. But Washington State getting 40 points in this game. We like the Cougars with the 40 points. Ducks win it huge. LSU and Ole Miss, an interesting game as the Rebels got off to a great start this season with wins over Vanderbilt and Texas. They almost pulled off the upset at home against Texas A&M last week, lost on a last-second field goal. We like LSU as one of the top 5 to 10 teams in the country to win this game in Oxford, but the Rebels are getting 10 points, and we like those 10 points with Ole Miss playing much better football last week against Texas A&M. Tigers win it, Rebels plus the 10. We also stay in the SEC with Texas A&M and Auburn. The Tigers, a much improved team in the SEC. Texas A&M, one of the top 5 to 10 teams in the country. We like A&M to win fairly comfortably, but Auburn take the 14 points in the Tigers in this one against Johnny Manziel and company. Ohio State and Iowa, the Buckeyes looking for other teams around the country to lose so that they can jump up a couple spots to the number 2 position. The Buckeyes a 17.5 point favorite against Iowa. We like the Buckeyes, and we like the Buckeyes big in this one. Confidence pick number 1 on the day. Ohio State minus 17.5. They roll over Iowa in Columbus. South Carolina, Tennessee. The Gamecocks had been playing some sluggish football amidst the controversy involving Jadeveon Clowney, but they got their act together last week at Arkansas 52-7. Tennessee, a marginal football team, one of the worst 3 football teams in the SEC. We like South Carolina to roll in Knoxville and cover the 7 points over the Vols. We jump into Big 12 play with Baylor, who scores 1,000,000 points taking on Iowa State. The Cyclones are a scrappy bunch, and they will keep it relatively close, or at least within the 33. Bears win big, but Iowa State plus the 33 against the spread. Florida, Mizzou. Mizzou at 6-0. Florida at 4-2 with 2 disappointing losses. Both teams with backup quarterbacks in this game. Missouri's at home. They're getting 3 points. Razor tight game. Mizzou plus the 3. Florida wins. So again, Gators win, but take the Tigers plus the 3. Stay in the SEC with another beat-up team in Georgia, taking on Vanderbilt, going to Nashville for this game. Vandy not off to a great start. They lost their only SEC game to Missouri by 23 points. Georgia, 6.5 point favorite in this one. We like the Bulldogs to bounce back from the loss against Missouri. Sure, they're still beat up, but Todd Gurley might play in this game. And some of those backup receivers have been working with Aaron Murray now for 2 or 3 weeks. So we expect off the loss the Dogs to get it together and cover the 6.5 against Vandy. Oklahoma coming off a poor showing in the Red River rivalry against Texas. 21.5 point favorite against Kansas. Sooners roll in this one, cover 21.5 against the Jayhawks. Fresno State, a top 25 team, taking on UNLV. We like UNLV to cover the 26. Fresno State, the Bulldogs do win the football game. Again, UNLV plus 26 against Fresno State. Northern Illinois, BCS bound last season against Florida State, and the Orange have won their first 6 football games of 2013, taking on Central Michigan in this one. We like Northern Illinois minus the 14.5. They will cover the spread and win the football game against Central Michigan. Stepping into the Big Ten with our second confidence pick of the day, Wisconsin and Illinois. Badgers impressive last week against Northwestern. And really, if you look at the entire season, the Badgers, despite 2 losses, have been impressive. They went on the road to Columbus, lost to the Buckeyes by just a touchdown against one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country. They went to Arizona State, were not given the opportunity to win the game with a field goal. Could have upset Arizona State on the road in the desert on a Saturday night. Difficult thing to do for the Badgers, and they almost pulled it off, or possibly would have pulled it off with the officials' better judgment. So Wisconsin playing good football, coming off the 29-point win against Northwestern, go on the road, and we don't typically love the road favorites, double-digit favorite, but here, Wisconsin, so much better than Illinois, covers the 14.5, confidence pick there with the Badgers. Notre Dame, USC, not quite as much on the line as is typical in this rivalry. Notre Dame, a 2-point favorite at home against USC. Trojans still struggling to score on offense. Did win the football game against Arizona 9 days ago on a Thursday night. And Notre Dame playing some fine football. If you look at the schedule, they lost to Michigan in a close football game, turned it over against Oklahoma a number of times early in that game, got back into the football game, outgained Oklahoma. Against a tough schedule, Notre Dame has played some pretty good football. We like the Irish to win it over the Trojans minus the 2 points. UCLA and Stanford. Surprisingly, the Cardinal lost against Utah on the road. What was more surprisingly is that Stanford got pushed around. What was considered to be maybe the best front seven in college football, certainly the best front seven outside of the SEC. Stanford got pushed around by the Utes, lost that game by 6. They had the ball in position to win it down at the 6-yard line late, got stopped on a 4th down. UCLA comes in undefeated. Their biggest test to date has been Nebraska, and they blew out the Huskers in the second half. We like UCLA in an upset pick to go on the road to Palo Alto and pull off the win with Brett Hundley at the controls. Jim Morris done an outstanding job in Brentwood, and UCLA wins at Stanford. Plus the 5 points, we will take the +5 with UCLA over Stanford. All right, Texas Tech and West Virginia. The Mountaineers, a much better football team at home. They keep it razor close against the Red Raiders. Texas Tech remains undefeated. They go to 7-0 at West Virginia, but take the Mountaineers plus the 5 points there. Stay in the Big 12 with an upset pick here, and it's a big upset in terms of the point spread. TCU, with the best defense in the conference, upset Oklahoma State on the road. We like the Horned Frogs, plus the 8.5 points, taking on the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. Okay, Florida State and Clemson, let's get to that. We'll save that for last. Michigan, Indiana. The Wolverines have not been impressive most of the season. Most certainly the games against Connecticut and Akron come to mind, but they were undefeated going to Happy Valley, and if they kick a field goal, if they hang on to a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left, if they do just a number of things, they're still undefeated. They didn't get the job done. They blew the game in Happy Valley. Michigan bounces back at home against Indiana. We saw the Hoosiers give up all sorts of points to a struggling Michigan State offense last week. So Michigan will have a field day against the Hoosiers at home. Michigan minus 8.5 over Indiana. Washington, Arizona State. We like this play on the road with Washington going to Arizona State, pulling off the upset. Huskies win it plus the 3.5 at Arizona State. Washington has possibly faced the toughest schedule in the country for the first 6 weeks. You're talking about Illinois, Boise State, Oregon, and Stanford. Washington has faced a very difficult schedule and come through at 4-2. They go to Arizona State and they win it, so take Washington plus the 3.5. Now we finish up with the game of the week. Florida State taking on Clemson in South Carolina. Tigers a 3.5-point underdog at home. Florida State with all sorts of talent and 4- and 5-star recruits that have come of age. Jameis Winston is the one of note. The big question with him as a freshman, this will be the most hostile environment and the toughest defense he has faced. We like Florida State to win a close football game. This one should be a really good one. We like Clemson to cover the 3.5 points. So we see Clemson at 3.5 on the line. Take Florida State to win it straight up, but Clemson covers the 3.5 points. So again, confidence picks: Ohio State minus 17.5 against Iowa. Wisconsin minus 14 against Illinois. 3 upset picks include TCU plus 8.5 against Oklahoma State to win it outright. UCLA plus the 5 against Stanford to win outright. And also Washington on the road against Arizona State, the Huskies to win it outright as a 3.5-point dog. Would love to hear your picks. Love to hear from you now. Make your picks right here on Mark Rogers TV.